I want to dive into the next one. But what do you feel are some of the top three things, or some of the top traits that make an entrepreneur successful?
I think the biggest thing that I find is the ability to pivot and not do it so quickly that you're, coming up with an idea and then you're changing it right away and then changing it, but being able to be confronted with a challenge or an obstacle to evaluate really what was the intention of this direction in the first place? Have we kind of exhausted all options? Okay, now what? What I've seen sometimes is people kind of double down maybe on not a good decision. And because they're just like, well, this is the decision I made and I got to stick to it. And this is the path, versus saying, okay, now that we know that, what is something adjacent to what we were doing that might look a little bit different that we could tweak and pivot into the success of this program or whatever the case is. So I think being able to pivot and not holding on to, while we create a lot of goals, not holding on to that goal to be like, this is the path that I need to get there, but understanding I'm going to get there. It might look a little bit different, and I have to be flexible in that. I think if you're overly rigid or overly tied to specific milestones or goals, you can kind of lead yourself down the wrong path if you're doing it that way. But if you are flexible to pivot, and that's really what's going to allow your business to be around for years and years.
And so what do you feel like is some of the overlooked strategies when it comes to people looking at their financial plan? I'm just curious, what are some of the first ones that come to mind?
Overlooked strategies, I think leveraging other people's knowledge. I think if you can do it yourself or you haven't made a mistake so detrimental that you're like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this by myself. There tends to be this overconfidence that people get when it comes to finances if they haven't made a mistake. So then this kind of builds on itself over time that they're like, oh, I can do this myself. I figured it out before I could do it myself. But as you build wealth or get older or tax changes, things like these happen, you really like, why not get the knowledge? Why not have the knowledge to make a more informed decision instead of doing it in your own bubble? So, an overlooked strategy is really kind of making a decision in a silo instead of inviting in professionals or other education so you can look at things differently. So, I even have a financial planner. I can do it myself. I know I can, but I know that I'm looking at it from my lens and only from my vantage point. I want somebody else's opinion to come in and challenge the way that I'm thinking and open my mind up to other ideas as well. I also want, because I am tend to be very fear-based with my own finance, I want someone else's like stamp of approval, another professional that's looking at it the way that I'm looking at it. It's like, yep, I agree with that. That makes sense. Here's why I like it. And it's like, okay, great. I'm on the right track. I've worked really hard to get to the place that I'm at. And I don't want to lose things that I have at this point. So I need to make sure that I'm not going to screw this up by jumping off track or not looking underneath, a different rock. So having strategy to invite other professionals in. And I think 2 years ago was the first time I actually hired a CPA to do my own taxes. Um, Again, I'm like, I could do it myself. It's like, yeah, you can. However, you're getting to a point where you have, different business taxes, you have other things going on. It is nice to get a professional in there who's looking at it, who can help you. Number one, not make any mistakes on your taxes. You don't want to do that. And then just have the foresight of let's complement your financial plan with how we're doing your taxes. So that's definitely an overlooked strategy. And this overconfidence that we get, it really comes from a psychological place. It comes from a place of positivity because we're feeling good about ourselves. So if you are optimistic about life in general, you tend to be overconfident about how you're handling your finances. And it's okay until a point where you feel like I'm so smart, that's why my money's growing. And it's like, you don't want to do that. It's because you're invested in the financial markets. The financial markets have no emotions, no feelings. They work the way that they work. And you just want to make sure that your plan is complementing everything that you're doing. So that's what I would start with.